In the name of the Creator, the Redeemer, and the Sustainer, Amen. Megan, thank you so much for being here this morning and just having a fireside chat with me and sharing your story with the congregation. And I just wanted to, make sure you're happy, you're good. You're good?
Yes, all
Okay,
good. Thank you
okay.
so much for having me.
You're welcome. The gospel story this morning was pretty rough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was great that, the harvest is plenty, the laborers are few, and then it was reference of Sodom and Gomorrah, and then at the end it talks about families turning against each other for the gospel's sake. And you have some first-hand experience with that, but first I would like to kind of introduce you and talk about pride and what it means to you. So, tell me a little bit about yourself and where you come from and what brought you to Southern California.
So I am originally from New Jersey. My father was transferred to Minnesota when I was a kid, so we moved there. But then as soon as it was time to go to college, I went straight back to the East Coast. I graduated, started my career in New York, which I loved, and I thought I was going to stay there forever. But then about 6 years into my career, I had the opportunity to take a short-term assignment in Singapore.
Wow.
So I took that. It was great, and I loved it there too. So that short-term assignment turned into 7 years.
Oh, wow.
And then I was thinking about coming back to the States, and I did so. I landed a job with a company called Western Digital in Irvine.
Right.
And now I am the Senior Director of Global Recruiting at Massimo, and I live right here in Newport Beach down the street.
Exciting. I want to talk about Singapore for a little bit. I want to touch on that. When you were in Singapore, how was that for you?
Yeah, so interesting. I wasn't out yet in the States before I moved by any means. In fact, I wasn't very comfortable with the fact that I might be gay. But the second that I moved, I guess there's one way to get real comfortable with how people view you is move to the other move to the other side of the planet. So I was out there. Not out, because it's actually punishable by death. It was then, it still is in Singapore, to be gay. So I had a girlfriend, but we kind of kept things, very under wraps.
Did you say you had a fake boyfriend?
I did, yes.
You called him a beard?
Yes, it's called a beard. So he was gay, I was lesbian. Yeah. He had a boyfriend, I had a girlfriend. But if we had to go to, a work event or a social, we went together.
Wow. So I want to talk a little bit about when you did come out, because I imagine the stress and strain of having to mask all that had to be incredible. And, what was that like, and what was your family's reaction?
Yeah, so when I moved back, it was very easy to stay closeted from my greater community on the other side of the planet. I lived my life, and that was completely fine. But when I moved back to the States, I just knew. So I came out to my friends and family pretty immediately after moving back about 8 years ago. And it went well with some. It went horribly with others. I still have no relationship with my parents.
I can't fathom that.
Yeah, but if I were to look at it positively, the friends and family that endured, those relationships have grown so much stronger because they're built on a basis of trust.
Right. Honesty and transparency.
Exactly, which is why coming out is so important. It's what the basis of, most relationships are based on trust.
So in Orange County, how have you felt about living a transparent life, and where have you found community?
That's a good question, especially in Orange County, because, it is pretty conservative. Most of my friends are straight. I do have LGBT friends, which is great because there's this kind of common understanding. But I also sit on the board of directors of the LGBT Center in Orange County. But that's more for me to give back to a community than to necessarily interact with it, even though those people are amazing and the work that they do is outstanding. I think what's most important to me in community is just kind of shared values.
Right.
And
absolutely.
Right. And as I've gotten older, I think I've just got a lot.
Because you're so old.
I've just got less time for people that don't accept me for who I am.
Right.
So, if you think about that from a faith perspective, faith has always been an important part of my life. I grew up Catholic, and that's very difficult because it's almost like a one or the other,
Right.
you know? So for me, this community at St. James has just been so amazing. I'm so grateful that I really tripped upon you.
Literally.
Yes. And the community that's here, they've been so kind and accepting, and it's just a safe place for me to be able to grow my faith without having to hide who I am. It takes an enormous amount of energy. And with church too, it's like, it's not this four walls, gosh, especially now. It's the community that you live in. So I think if I weren't out, I would be a lot less active in this church community. Because here's a kind of a funny example. I was on a date like a few months back, and I am not joking. I ran into, just at a local restaurant here, not even a long date, just 2 glasses of wine, short. I ran into Mike and Carl,
Oh.
and then Ellison,
Oh my gosh.
and then my friend Hannah in the hour I was
little-
there.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So if I weren't out in my community, in my church community, if I had to do one or the other, that leaks out into the rest of your life. How uncomfortable would that experience be if that were my
How do you
reality?
fake it with another woman and not be able to be transparent?
Exactly,
I can't even imagine.
exactly. And because of this community, this wildly inclusive community, I had to drink with all of them.
Yeah. You even go and when you deliver all our goodies, you find other people on the peninsula. It's awesome. So I personally get offended when I hear some pastors or evangelicals, I'm not downing, the faith, but when they say that the gays caused the pandemic or even 9/11, or you're responsible for the hurricanes and the hurricanes and the tornadoes and the floods and pretty soon the locusts from biblical proportions. Your community is responsible, Meg. I mean, I can't even fathom how ridiculous that is and how that feels. So how do you take that?
Well, I mean, I feel really powerful.
Good for you.
I mean, if I can bring locusts.
I know, right?
No, I mean, in honesty, it sounds, you're
Why don't
right.
you fix the world while we're at
I know, if I can do that.
I know. Don't they get that? They call your local gay person.
Yes, exactly. Fix the pandemic. It's exactly what you said. It sounds ridiculous. And it is ridiculous. But you know what it is? It's loud. And it's out there.
Yeah.
It's in media and it's in social media. And our community has been ostracized by, the church for a really long time.
It grieves me. It grieves me.
Yeah, and I think what is so unfortunate for you, who, do so much good and are such an inclusive community, is that it's kind of like when you're a kid, right? And you're like, don't get in with the wrong crowd because that's how you're viewed. Well, I think, unfortunately, for the LGBT population, we view, the majority of them, view the church as that's what we hear. I mean, from my personal...
Because it's loud.
It's so loud, yeah. So, like, my personal experience, I've had an easier time defending my gayness to the faith community than I have defending my faith to the LGBT population.
See, I think that alone is profound. And I've strived to make this a safe place, as you know. And so bring them on down, you know what I mean? It's just like, oh my gosh. I didn't realize until another parishioner, a gay parishioner, pointed out to me that, and I don't want to get political here, but people need to know that when Mike Pence stands up, he's a very, faithful person, and he has the faith community leaders behind him, that they are actually the anti-gay leaders, and there's not this inclusive or blending or different voices represented, and that's, the subtlety, of course, being a straight woman is, unless I had you making me aware of that, I would not have really paid attention. And I'm a priest, how dare I? Get with it, Cindy. But, that's got to be incredibly painful that our leadership is not giving, like, the whole gamut.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, it sends a message, right? It's a purposeful message.
yes.
It's not like, oh, we let one slip by. That is a consistent, purposeful message.
Right.
The message would be different if you were standing behind him. That message is of inclusivity and doing good and technology.
Right, right.
But that's not the message that he has standing behind him. The Easter prayer was not given by, and was purposefully picked to not be inclusive.
Right.
So, I mean, I think for me, I have been so grateful with everything that you do for the Pride Month, the LGBT population. I would love to get us out there even more than we already are via whatever technology we have to kind of push that message, both for the reason of being on par with the counter, but also to be out there and loud and proud about that. This is not what church is about to my population.
We are going through world changes right now with Black Lives Matter, and we have Pride Month, and we decided to go ahead and to engage in Pride Month. And you were great at explaining the intersectionality of Black Lives Matter, and not to discount at all or to compare, but that the equal rights has intersection. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so intersectionality, I kind of view it in two facets. One is that, like, separates us, not in a bad way, but if you look at like a marginalized class, like the LGBT population, there's a lot of subsections within that population, right? So what the issues that a gay man may face are very different than what I would face because I'm a gay woman. So I have the intersection of being a woman and being gay.
Right.
Also very different than both of our experiences of a Black trans woman.
Right.
So Black Lives Matter has been at an intersection with the LGBT population for quite some time, mainly because of Black trans women who are being murdered on the streets at horrifying rates. So that's kind of an example. It's like you can't, when you have a societal issue, do a peanut butter spread of a solution because there's intersections that cross. I mean, if you bring it back to the Stonewall riots, they were riots against police brutality of the LGBT population. That's happened 51 years ago, which is why we celebrate Pride every year in June. Those were started by actually a Black trans woman.
Really?
So that's intersection has been with these two populations for quite some time, and I think we build each other up, especially in times like these.
Right.
You know, the other way to look at it is what brings us together.
Right.
So if you look, right.
Hopefully.
Like if you look at your St. James community, I mean, we're Black and we're white, and we're gay and we're straight, and we're young and we're old. So issues that affect, like right now, the African American population, that affects St. James because that's us. Yeah.
Awesome. So about your job, have you been treated differently, bypassed? I know at Western Digital you were kind of the poster child.
Yes.
And I know that was uneasy for you, but how is it now with your new job? How do you feel?
Yeah, so it was really interesting. I wasn't out initially in my new job. I think that's kind of a misconception about this, like, coming out. Like,
yeah, talk about that a little bit, too.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're like Ellen and you like have the opportunity to come out on
national TV,
primetime TV with an Oprah special the next day. Coming out is kind of always this like
it's
constant. Yeah, it's not a static event. So, you know, my coming out, which I would kind of call that was what I was talking about earlier, 8 years ago. That was the one-time biggie. But then you start a new job, you have to come out again. So I wasn't out initially. I was new to Orange County. I heard it was very conservative. But over time, I did come out. And then in that time at Western Digital, we went through a very big diversity and inclusion initiative. So I was the poster child. Like literally, I'm like on a poster.
I saw it.
So I mean, that was good. I learned a ton about, you know, the struggles and things like that within the population. For me personally, I've really been quite lucky. But now, you know, I'm in a new job, and you have to go through that all over again. you join a golf league, you
Yep.
get a new hairdresser, you go to a restaurant. It's this constant, like,
You have to tell
your story.
if people say to you, "Oh, what'd you do this weekend?" You have to, like, can I say I'm with my girlfriend, or do I have to say I was with my, partner?
Exactly. And you kind of have to gauge every situation of, is this worth,
Yeah.
am I going to be accepted, is it not? So
Right.
some happen faster than others, and some
This
take
is a
some
key
time.
point because, being a straight woman, I don't do that. It's assumed. And so I think on our talk Wednesday night when Trevor said, start using inclusive language when you talk to people, what did you do this weekend with your loved one or,
Yes.
your partner?
Yeah.
And that totally resonated with me. So,
It sends a message.
yeah.
It sends a message that if they said loved one and not what does your husband do,
Right.
it sends a message of inclusivity.
Right.
Little changes.
We're going to do that here. You can be my guide.
I love it.
Yeah. We're running out of time. What can we do? What, if you could wave your magic wand, what would you like us to do?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, because there's a lot, and I think everybody in this congregation should, start here. I mean, get one of these. It's a cape. This is from Catherine, actually. So, and then we'll get you caped up.
Yeah, we'll get you caped
And
up.
then we'll get everybody at the Pride Parade or on stage or maybe in a float, maybe. I don't know
I need
what would
one
be
of those.
better.
Oh, wait. I have my own appropriate stole. Okay. So what else?
But kidding aside, like that's not what, I mean, that is what allyship is, and I think that's actually one of the downsides of our really strong, powerful allies, because we have loads of them, right? You think about Lady Gaga and Pink and Cher and Cyndi Lauper, and they are out and proud and caped, and they've done so much for our community in terms of fighting fiercely for gay rights, but that's not everybody.
No, we need
Yeah, it might be important to people, but they don't want to be that person. I don't want to be. That's too much for me. So I think everybody could just, if we could just, being an ally, I guess it's on a spectrum.
We need to just define that for people that don't know ally. That's a person that is an ally to the gay community.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Like a straight ally would be somebody who supports gay rights.
We're an allyship.
Yes.
We are the church. So.
Yes, exactly. So, but that ally spectrum is broad. You've got Lady Gaga on this side, but that doesn't mean that you can't be anywhere on that spectrum.
Right.
And I think the only thing that I would ask is everybody just kind of take just one half step further along the spectrum.
Intentional. Intentional step.
And you know what? We might not know how to do that, but we are lucky enough. We've got Jean Marie Nevada from PFLAG. PFLAG's the largest organization of allies in the nation. And she runs a program called Straight for Equality.
Right.
And it gives kind of the importance of allies and allyship, and also some real tips and tricks, kind of like what you were talking about before, like using inclusive language.
Right.
So I encourage, this is the 24th, I encourage everybody to come. She's outstanding.
Right.
And if you
She's
take one
zooming
little
in.
nugget.
She's zooming in, people.
Zooming in, yeah. She's zooming in on the 24th at 7 p.m. Yeah. So if you listen to that, you don't have to have this.
That's your half step.
Yes, unless that is your half step.
Where can we order our capes?
Ask Catherine.
Okay.
I think she got this one from Party City.
Oh, awesome.
Actually, she got this one from Party City for our Pride deliveries.
Awesome. So this is Reverend Cindy and Meg signing off. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.